Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Male Gynecologist. I'm your host, Dr. Shawn Tassone, America's Holistic Gynecologist. Having one foot in the allopathic world of surgeries and medications and, MDs and DOs. And then I also have one foot in the alternative world where things are kind of like the Wild West. A lot of false claims, a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of charlatans, and a lot of bad stuff out there. And while I don't like to throw shade, well, who am I kidding? I like to throw shade. I wanted to go off on a topic today that is basically one of the areas in this world of hormones where women are being led astray. And I say that because there's a lot of products out there that are just making false claims. And one of them, right off the top, that I have spoken about in the past is wild yam cream. And we're going to do this episode on progesterone and progesterone creams because there seem to be a ton of these on the internet. And I made a statement earlier this week about a company named Una, O-N-A or Ona, who was founded after a woman named Ona Green, who basically was treating herself with progesterone. And this company sells what they call cosmetic creams. I accidentally or misinadvertently labeled it as a face cream, and I was corrected by the company's CEO that it wasn't a face cream. It's actually a cosmetic cream. What the hell ever. They know exactly what they're doing. They're skirting the FDA, and they're doing so by calling these cosmetic creams because they aren't regulated by the FDA, and they're basically putting in them whatever the hell they want. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm going to go through a couple of companies here. But first of all, anything that is made from wild yam that says it's only wild yam, if it doesn't have on the back label progesterone or estradiol or estriol, and it just says wild yam, don't buy it. It's a complete scam. The hormones themselves are made from wild yam, dioscorea. However, you can't convert that in your body to progesterone, estradiol, or estriol. You have to have that made in a lab. So putting wild yam cream on your skin is going to do absolutely nothing. You're going to be paying a shit ton of money for something that you absolutely do not need, and it's just basically expensive lotion. Now, that being said, if the company has cream derived from wild yam that has actual USP, progesterone, estradiol, estriol, that's an actual hormone. And as much as I would like for there to be more awareness about hormones, I'm not a big fan of self-treatment. You could say, oh, you're a doctor. Of course you don't want to do self-treatment because that takes money out of your pocket. You know, none of us work for free. I get that. And I know that argument. I've heard it a million times. But here's my point. If you're going to be spending 50, 60 bucks a month on a cream that one may not do anything, or two may harm you because it actually is a prescriptive strength medication, then I want to let you know about it. You can make up your own mind. I mean, but my job here is to make you aware of what's out there. Because like I said, this is basically the Wild West, and I believe there are unethical companies out there preying on women that will, make false claims. They will put in prescriptive strength medications based on the fact that they think it's okay, but they're skirting the FDA by making claims that are simply, might have a little bit of validity in them. And I'm just going to go through a couple of companies because I want to, just like I've done in the past, I want to go through their websites and kind of show you, what the story is. And I want to start with a company called Ona. It's ONA. And it says as their mission at Ona's Naturals, We believe in the power of nature to improve our health and well-being. That's why we're dedicated to providing high-quality plant-based hormone supplements to help you live your best life. Our story begins with Ona Green, who suffered from catamenial epilepsy, meaning she would have seizure disorder that would be triggered by her menses, a type of epilepsy that intensifies during certain phases of the menstrual cycle. Despite facing life-threatening seizures, Ona refused to give up and instead began exploring the benefits of plant-based progesterone. Now, like I said earlier, most progesterone is plant-based. That's a marketing term. With the help of hormone experts John Lee and Dr. Ray Peat, who we will go into, many people think that these guys are, I wouldn't hold either of them up as experts in the field. And actually, Ray Peat may in and of himself be somewhat of a scam artist who's been sued on multiple occasions. But this is who they're holding up as their experts. Ray Peat and John Lee, who had used natural progesterone to manage seizures, Ona discovered the benefits of this natural hormone support, but she quickly realized that the strength and purity levels she needed were not readily available over the counter. Now, keep in mind, this was probably 25, 30 years ago, before we had micronized progesterone available through any sort of insurance that you have. And I'm going to make a point later on to remember that these companies are charging $50 for a 20 milligram dose of progesterone that you could get a 100 milligram dose from your insurance for probably $10. So per milligram, it's about 5 times the expense. So that in and of itself, I would say not to buy the product. They have to say that in the state of California, the state requires a cancer warning on all progesterone products, regardless of vast scientific difference between the synthetic form found in most birth control medications and the natural form. This is kind of a fancy way of them saying that they have to say this, but they think their product is safe. The reality is, if you have a breast cancer cell that has a progesterone receptor on it, it doesn't matter if it's synthetic or if it's natural progesterone, it can stimulate that cancer cell growth. So I don't believe what they're saying is completely true. So basically, that's their story. They started from this woman, which, maybe that's a great story and whatnot, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the products are any good. So let's see what they got here. They've got a product initially here called Luna Snow. Una's Natural Luna Snow 10. This unique product is another version of the 10% micronized progesterone suspended in a natural vitamin E with phosphatidylcholine, which is supposed to lower your stress levels and help you calm down a little bit more. Basically, 1 drop of the oil contains 5 milligrams of bioidentical progesterone. I'm here to tell you 5 milligrams of bioidentical progesterone is a waste. First of all, if you're putting it on your skin, you're probably not getting any of it because you're going to lose it to the absorption. It also contains 100 milligrams of bioidentical progesterone. So it's interesting because they put 1 drop, but they then put 1 milliliter, which I can't remember. I think might be 30 drops. Or in this should be 20 drops if we do it right. So each drop contains 5 milligrams. 1 milliliter contains 100 milligrams, and it looks like the bottle is 56 ml. So if you were to do a 100 milligram dose and you did 1 ml, you'd get 50 servings out of this for $34. So you could do pretty good price on this. No guarantee that it's being absorbed. However, they're basically giving you enough to get you through a month. So it's 100 milligrams per ml. A quarter of a teaspoon is 125. And then the bottle contains 5,680 milligrams of progesterone. How they're able to do this legally, I really don't know. Basically, they're giving you prescription strength hormones. 100 milligrams is basically prescription strength. And they're doing it by giving you 5,680 milligrams to do with whatever you want. That's all it says. It doesn't really tell you how to use it. It doesn't tell you what to do with it. It says it helps regulate ovulation. I'm not sure how it would do that. And the menstrual cycle, it improves bone health. Again, not sure how progesterone does that. And it promotes a balance in your mood. Again, show me studies. There's no studies listed anywhere on this website. It's a natural and effective solution for women suffering from menopause and estrogen dominant symptoms with 100 milligrams of micronized progesterone per ml. Again, they're quoting the prescription strength, if you notice. They're not promoting that it's only 5 milligrams. They're saying 100 milligrams because, again, they know that it's prescription strength. They're marketing it as a prescription strength product that you can get over the counter. They have Luna Pro 3. Says it improves your sex drive and enjoy a restful sleep. What's inside of it? 3% progesterone cream. It also has some fragrances, a vitamin E-based progesterone cream. Each ml contains 30 milligrams of progesterone and vitamin E. Now, this is the same product, basically. It just has progesterone in it. But this one, somehow they're saying is better for your sex drive. They didn't say that in the other one, but for some reason, this one itself does improve your sex drive. Again, no specific facts, no research, nothing here to show they've done any sort of research whatsoever. The recommendations are to use 1 pump daily from cycle days 14 through 28. They're basically telling you, at least on this one, how to use it. But again, absolutely no data whatsoever. Then they've got Luna Pro 5, which is a step up from the Pro 3. This one can improve your bone health and regulate mood. It can improve your sex drive. You can enjoy a restful sleep. In this one is 50 milligrams of bioidentical progesterone. So it's a little bit more than the last one. So that's your step up. It's just basically got a little bit more. And then they go from 3 to 5 to Luna 10. And Luna 10 actually includes 100 milligrams of bioidentical progesterone. Basically, this is a prescription medication. They're calling it a cream, but it's a prescription. And it's really interesting. They don't make any claims on here that it's not a prescription, but they do say in bold that it is a potent over-the-counter product. Now, it's potent because it's a prescription. This should be a prescription. They're skirting by the FDA. They're skirting by prescribing by saying that it's a cosmetic cream. And cosmetics, as you're well aware, don't have regulations like prescriptions do. So basically, they're saying that it's a cream. They're saying it's a cosmetic cream. Now, they have a little bit of stuff on here, about the vitamin E and the aspen bark extract they use and hydroxycellulose and argan oil and blah, blah, blah. None of that really means a whole lot to me. It's just fancy, stinky stuff. So basically, if you look at the resources section, there's no results. It takes you to a page. If you go to resources, it takes you to a page called Happy Gut Girl. And it says no results found. So basically, you go to Happy Gut Girl, which is the woman that basically owns the product that, or is the CEO that was reading me my rights on Instagram. And so basically, there's absolutely she has no research. And naturally, she can sell you a bunch of stuff and do Dutch testing, even though I'm not quite sure what her background is. But she's, I guess, okay reading labs and ordering labs and making diagnoses and then treating you with bioidentical progesterone. So that being said, the whole basis of these creams, from this company to Bezwen, Genesis, Dr. Skin, Anna's, which is an Australian-based wild yam cream that is a worthless product as well. all these creams, if you look at them on Amazon, $37, $39, $29, $37, they're expensive, and they're about the same price as a prescription. So Bezwen is even worse. Bezwen, if you look at their products, even on their websites by Dr. Sheffrin, Bezwen doesn't even tell you what's in the product. It just says on the back of the bottle, progesterone. It doesn't even tell you how much. You have to go to Amazon to find how much is in there. And even on Amazon, it doesn't always tell you. So I want to find out a couple of things. First of all, with Bezwen, who is Dr. Sheffrin? Dr. Sheffrin with Bezwen is basically somebody who wants to, put out hormonal things, but maybe or maybe not an expert. So let's see what Dr. Sheffrin is. If you go to Bezwen's webpage about Dr. Sheffrin, about the owner, Dr. Sheffrin, you get a bunch of gobbledygook, but then it says Dr. Sheffrin, ND. So Dr. Sheffrin, the owner of Bezwen, is a naturopath, a lecturer, practitioner, and formulator who's helped thousands of healthcare professionals become knowledgeable and confident in treating women's healthcare needs. 45 years of experience in natural medicine, Dr. Sheffrin has developed effective formulas that deliver consistent results. Don't see any sort of proof of that. Earned his naturopathic medical degree from National University, blah, blah, blah. And then followed graduation, did postgraduate studies in some foreign country on homeopathic medicine, which it's my opinion that homeopathy is a waste of time. It's been proven to be completely scam. In 1989, Sheffrin completed a bachelor's degree from the University of Albany, and many years of successful practice established Bezwen in order to better provide patients. So basically, this doctor, this naturopath, doesn't say anywhere that they've really done any sort of extensive training, and basically just came out with a bunch of products that are sold on Amazon that people try. If they have positive results, mostly it's placebo effect because there's nothing in most of them that I can tell. There is progesterone. Now, if you use progesterone, let's say you're using these products and you have a result, chances are you're probably using them and you're using one of the stronger products that is basically a prescription. You could get some good results if you're using maybe 40 milligrams or something along those lines, but 20 milligrams probably wouldn't do a whole lot. It might take the edge off a little bit. It might be one of those things where you just, you feel a little bit of something. It might take the edge off a little bit, but you got to use somewhere between probably 50 and 100 milligrams to really get a result that you would probably notice over time. And as I said, you're going to be paying a lot of money more than an actual prescription because your insurance will cover bioidentical progesterone. So if you're going to waste your money, I wouldn't waste it on one of these over-the-counter products. Now let's talk about the founders of these thought processes. The companies that are making these products always tout Dr. John Lee and Dr. Peat. Point being is Dr. Lee did get a lot of crap years ago. Dr. Lee was one of those people that did talk about progesterone way before it was as popular as it is now. And while he catches a lot of heat, I do think that he had some positives that he added to the field. But first of all, why do you need progesterone? Basically, you need progesterone because of pregnancy. That would be the main reason, to maintain a healthy, happy pregnancy. The secondary reason then is that progesterone, if you don't get pregnant, progesterone stabilizes the lining of the uterus. When you ovulate, you make progesterone for about 12 days, and then the progesterone drops. When the progesterone drops, that's when you have your period. So progesterone also helps the balance of growth, stabilization, and then shedding of the lining. So you need progesterone to have a good uterine lining. You also need progesterone to offset the effects of estrogen, and you need progesterone to maintain a happy, healthy pregnancy. So basically, there's no commercially available topical progesterone, most likely because it's hard to absorb it through the skin and you need to have testing done. And no company's really stepped forward to do the testing. All the testing has been done on oral products. And the problem with doing a study of that magnitude is that women absorb things differently. Skin thicknesses vary, applications vary, people work out, they sweat, things are variable. So it would be really hard to randomize a test. It's not like you just take the pill and then you can go about your business. So basically, it's gonna be hard to ever produce a test for a topical cream. I still think that they work because I've done enough of the testing myself, but it's one of those things where I think that this idea that it's big pharmacy, I don't believe in that. I just think that there isn't a way for big pharmacy to make a lot of money with it, and they'd have to spend a lot to do the studies, which would be hard to do. So they just basically stayed away from it. The progesterone industry, let's call it the topical progesterone industry, which is what all of these companies are cashing in on that I just mentioned. Lots of people are making money, not just the companies, but the prescribers, obviously, the people that don't have to have a medical license to use these products are selling them at an upsale. Talking about people maybe like health coaches or, people that just can't prescribe medications, they can use these supplements because, again, they're unregulated. Topical progesterone industry basically dates back to the 1970s when Dr. John Lee, who was a family physician, started promoting topical progesterone. And Lee himself never actually really published any credible research, just a lot of anecdotal data, which is funny because this company and a lot of these companies basically base their entire mission on Lee's work, which is basically zero. Like he didn't publish anything other than a book. He had some biologically difficult hypotheses about progesterone that he was never really able to prove, and he was also an early adopter of salivary testing, which anybody that's listened to my episode on testing knows that I think salivary testing is a complete scam, except for cortisol. It's never been shown to be reliable or reproducible, and it's just one of those things that really is a waste of your money. But it's one of those things where if you look deeply into the background of these topical progesterone companies, they basically all started from nothing. More anecdotes, and maybe there's some truth to it. I mean, we do know that progesterone helps, but the problem is we just don't have the data to back up these topical companies that are out there. We have the data to back up the progesterone that's used as an actual prescription. So I also think that sometimes we look at these companies and we just give them the ultimate because they make these claims. The problem is they can make up any claim they want because they don't have to back up anything they do. And this is one of my problems with these companies is they can say all these things. And if you notice the way they say it, can help, possibly helps, may help, they use language so that they're not actually making definitive claims, but they're doing it in a way that makes you feel like they are making a definitive claim. So keep in mind, the claims that they're making are possibilities. They're not necessarily backed up by any research. If you go to these websites and you look under their resources, they have absolutely nothing to show because they have no research to back up anything that they're claiming. You can look at that any way you wish, but it is what it is. Now, another doctor that they put out there as the end all be all is Dr. Ray Peat. And Ray Peat is an interesting fella. He basically is this guy who kind of is a little bit out there, came up with some kind of interesting ideas on diet. the Ray Peat diet, if any of you are into this kind of, alternative area. Basically, Ray Peat himself was an American conspiracy theorist. Um, he denied any sort of issues with cholesterol, basically a lot of pseudoscience. But he made a lot of weird claims. He argued that coconut oil was a health food, which some people do still believe, and that all seed oils are toxic, which is being propagated by people out there like Paul Saladino and some others. And there's a lot of other people that are saying that this is completely false. He also claimed that nuts and seeds are toxic because they contain high amounts of polyunsaturated fats. I really don't believe that nuts are bad for you in moderation. He actually, in a weird way, defended Mexican Coca-Cola because it contains cane sugar rather than the high fructose corn syrup. I will say that it tastes a hell of a lot better than the one that we have here, but I don't think it's necessarily good for you. As far as other drinks, he said orange juice was anti-estrogenic and claimed that orange juice is good because it raises people's cholesterol. He was a believer in high cholesterol. Avocados, he thought avocados were carcinogenic because of the unsaturated fats. And just kind of a lot of weird, things. He also believed that tobacco lowered the risks of Alzheimer's disease. As a matter of fact, he had a quote that said, people who take aspirin, drink coffee, and use tobacco have a much lower incidence of Alzheimer's disease than people who don't use those things. But again, absolutely no evidence to back that up. So these two men who are a little bit odd are the basis of these topical progesterone cream companies. So they hang their hats on these two guys who are basically kind of, I don't even know if I would call them outsiders. I'd say way outsiders in the medical field. Now, that doesn't mean, because I often talk sometimes about how you can have physicians out there who might seem off in their time period. Ignay Semmelweis, Lister. There's a lot of people out there that made some major medical breakthroughs, but at the time were thought of as charlatans because the medical community didn't agree with them at the time. And basically, they were proven right. I do think that Pete and John Lee have had plenty of time to be proven right, and they haven't. And I do think that Lee was on to something when he said that progesterone was an amazing hormone. It wasn't being thought of at the time because he was coming out with this when Premarin was making a big push and there was no estrogen progesterone combos. It was all just basically estrogen, and we know that turned out poorly because a lot of women got uterine cancer because they didn't have the progesterone. So, obviously problems there as well. So here's the thing, down and dirty of progesterone. I just went off on a tangent. I'm really sorry about that. Use progesterone only when it's prescribed. Don't go buy these over-the-counter creams where either they're not labeled or they are labeled and they have prescription strength amounts. Anything above 50 milligrams, I would definitely stay away from. I wouldn't self-treat with hormones. I think it's the wrong way to go. I don't need your money. I don't necessarily want your money. I just don't think that they're good investments. And I think when you self-treat, you go down a path where you could make other things worse. And if you don't know what you're treating, which is why I always say test and then test again to see what your levels do and to see if it's working for you. And if I was going to spend $30 on something, I would want a proven product. I wouldn't want something that is not proven, that has absolutely no data, and that is being somewhat unethically deceitful by bypassing FDA rules and by claiming it's a cosmetic cream when in reality it's actually a prescription cream that I don't call the compounded creams that I send to pharmacies cosmetic. If I did, I guess I could skirt around the issue, but they're not cosmetic. They're prescriptions. and they have hormones in them, and hormones can be dangerous if they're not used the right way. So progesterone, again, made by the corpus luteum after you ovulate. That's where most of your progesterone comes from. Usually you have it on cycle days 14 through 25, give or take, depending on the length of your cycle. The question as to whether or not to cycle progesterone, hotly debated, although, again, absolutely no evidence to show that cycling progesterone, especially in menopause, has any health benefits whatsoever. Actually, I have absolutely no idea why you would want to make a woman who's 63 have a period. And this concept of physiologic restoration, which is what some of these people are espousing, where they think, oh, you should have your hormones back the way you were when you were 30. Well, guess what? When you're 55, you're not 30, you're 55. And if you wanted to restore physiology, then menopause is a natural state. It is a natural physiologic state. So you shouldn't do anything. The fact that you're giving hormones in the first place is going against your argument. So you're being a hypocrite if you're one of these physiologic restoration people. So let's throw this out. You don't need to cycle your progesterone when you're in menopause. If you're in perimenopause, now that's a choice. If you're in your 40s and you want to maintain that regularity, or if you're only having symptoms the week prior to your cycle, it might make sense to just take progesterone days 14 through 25. If you're a woman who has horrible insomnia and you don't have a uterus and you don't know when you're cycling, it might make more sense for you to have progesterone every day because you can benefit from having it every day. It's not a one size fits all deal, but for these people out there that are promoting this concept of physiologic restoration, ask them for data. I used to have this person who was in charge of this website that's all about physiologic restoration, and she would come at me all the time on Instagram. And I kept asking her data, data, data. And she kept saying to me, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. This was like a year and a half, never one shred of data. Oh, well, we have this doctor, and oh, well, we have this doctor, and this doctor's doing it. And it's like, I don't give two shits who's doing it. It doesn't make any difference who's doing it. It's like my mom always said, if they went out and shit in the middle of the road, would you go do it? I mean, that's their argument. You know, it's like, well, so-and-so is doing it, so you should do it. No, that's not how I do things. I do things based on sound reasoning and data, and then kind of what the patient wants to do and do it within a safe and effective way. So we don't need to physiologic restore progesterone. Let's throw that out there. All the confusion that's out there about that, just ask them for data. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. It's basically one doctor out there promoting it. It's her brainchild. I do like her. I respect her, but I don't agree with her on this. And she has shown absolutely no data. It's basically just a concept. It's a theory, and it's great. It's fun, but it doesn't mean anything because there's no evidence to support it. So symptoms of low progesterone are going to be insomnia, irritability, water retention, basically irregular heavy periods. What progesterone, like I said, is made in the corpus luteum. Many doctors out there will say if you've had a hysterectomy and you are on hormone replacement that you don't need progesterone. Technically, they're right. You don't, air quote, need progesterone because you can't get uterine cancer. However, you might want it because it helps you sleep. You might want it because it calms you down, it mellows you out, can help with headaches, can help with water retention. You might want it to balance out the effects on the breast tissue and other tissues in your body, but you don't need it to prevent uterine cancer. They never quite finish that sentence and say you don't need it because you don't have a uterus because you can't get uterine cancer. They should finish that sentence, and then you could say, well, I might want it though, right? So progesterone comes in different forms. You can get an oral capsule. All the data that is out there currently on progesterone has been done orally. Micronized progesterone has been around for decades and was initially sold under the product called Prometrium. Now it's generic, and it's literally $0 to $10. There has been a national shortage of late. I blame these pop-up companies like MIDI and some of these other ones who are just out there doing doc in the box routine protocols, and they're just prescribing stuff like crazy. I also blame it on the pharmaceutical companies for not planning on the women coming into perimenopause and menopause, and they didn't keep up with the production. I'm sure they will eventually, but right now there's a backlog because there's just a lot of women using the products, and the companies didn't make enough. So we got to try to find places. We're calling around all the time, making sure we can find somewhere. There's basically two commercially available doses. There's 100 milligrams, there's 200 milligrams. If you want anything outside of those two doses with the bioidentical progesterone, you have to have it compounded. You can have a compounded capsule made with 25, 50, 75, 125, kind of however you want to do it. You're just going to have to pay a compounded price, probably somewhere around $40 to $60 a month. If you want it made in any other way, if you want it as a vaginal suppository, a sublingual tablet, or a cream, you have to have it compounded. And again, compounding, if you just did like these companies that are selling this cosmetic cream online, it's going to cost about what they cost, about $40. I would prefer to actually have a compounded pharmacy make it than to buy it over the counter, because I can't guarantee you that what they say is in the product is actually in the product, because they don't have to prove it. Whereas compounding pharmacies, the ones that I use, do testing. I trust them, and the costs are about the same. Now, I also, as I said earlier, I wouldn't use any over-the-counter progesterone products that, one, don't tell you how much progesterone is in it, two, are anything over probably 40 milligrams, and I would only use them temporarily. I wouldn't use them long-term. I find these companies that are marketing these as cosmetic creams are unethical. I find that they are, especially with their 100 milligram dose, they are going around the system, and they are selling a product that in my mind is currently prescription only. Whether or not you agree with that, that's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion, just as I am with mine. But I find this unethical, and I find it just really, in my opinion, it's malpractice that they're able to do this and do it and sleep at night. But that's just my opinion, and as you all know, I'm very opinionated. So let's keep this discussion going. If you listen to me on YouTube, there's lots of comments. Share these episodes with other women. I give this information to you free and currently unbiased because, well, I mean, I'm biased in the sense that I have my own opinion, but I'm not selling some sort of progesterone product. I think hormones are hormones. They should be prescriptions only, because you can really mess yourself up. And as I said, I'm not a big fan of self-diagnosis, although I would have to say that I'm probably guilty of that myself, because who likes going to the doctor? I'll admit it. I hate it myself. So I hope you had a good listen. As always, I'm here on Thursdays. You can contact me at my office, 512-956-0296. We'll get your hormones tested. Stay away from the scammy products out there. Ask me any questions you want. I'll be here if you need me. Have a good week and a good weekend.